The southwestern part of the continent of Tyria may be its most desolate, home to dry, inhospitable terrain and terrible, bloodthirsty creatures. And few corners are more unwelcoming than the Vampire Marches, a barren land where the sun does not shine and the creatures exist between life and death. But it wasn't always like that. Long ago, before the Havoc Wars ravaged the continent, the Western Marches were less vampiric? The people of the twisted forests and foggy plains of the Marches were always more unruly than the others, even after the human empire annexed them in the name of uniting humanity. They included ornery nobles ruling over moderately fertile farmland worked by hardened serfs, as well as savage woodsman tribes. Either way, they were all expected to join in when the fiends of Havoc came to fight. When not only the main host of Havoc began to close in on the border guards provided by the Marches, but they also had to deal with demons and eventually ogres threatening their homeland, they called for reinforcements from the rest of the Empire. But their overlords had other plans. The Viceroy Vampiric I died in the Battle of the Red Road, and his son seceded from the Empire. Things were desperate to say the least. So Vampiric II was willing to grasp at straws when the being known as the Stranger arrived. The Stranger promised to use his necromancy to save their land and give the Marchers eternal life, in exchange for land for his mysterious patrons to settle on. The tide of war immediately turned, and with the enemies of the Marches defeated by hordes of undead, all that was left was for Vampiric to perform his side of the bargain and let the Stranger perform his ritual to invite his patrons and give the Marchers immortality. Too bad that Vampiric wasn't interested in sharing. Vampiric stabbed the Stranger in the back, and in his dying breath, the Stranger left a parting gift instead of what he had promised before. The Marchers could no longer die, but they no longer lived either. The people of the Marches were transformed. The nobles became vampires, the woodsmen became werewolves, and many peasants became ghouls. Their land became lightless and twisted, only fit to preserve the undead. Anyways, they can't die of old age, so most of them are still there, led by the former Prince of the Empire and self-proclaimed successor to Vampiric II, Vampiric III. The vampires live on the blood of their serfs, who they gift with undead immortality so that they can also survive in the dead land. The sickness that created the first ghouls is also still there, and as far as anyone can see, there isn't a cure. And the werewolves are still doing werewolf things. This is a bit of a departure from my history content, but I've wanted to expand into fantasy lore for a while. Let me know what you think in the comments.